Okay, I'm going to be making Arroz con Pollo. I printed this out because I didn't have it in a printed version. This was from the Better Homes and Gardens 1981 cookbook, which I used to have, and I have no longer. I'm going to modify it a bit because I'm using half the chicken that the recipe calls for, and I'm going to half the onions and garlic because this much is going to give me gas and diarrhea. I've already learned that I need to go a little bit easier on the onion and garlic. And the chicken bouillon granules, I don't think I'm going to use a tablespoon. I will use 2 teaspoons because it has yeast in it and some other ingredients that might irritate me. The key to having a successful diet, see, I had a little bit of a soft stool this morning, and I figured out that my diet, I'm going a little too heavy on the wakame seaweed, the ginger and the garlic. So some of these recipes I need to modify them. It's hard for me to eat recipes with garlic in moderation or ginger in moderation because I love the taste of ginger and garlic. And I have a tendency to gorge and then I pay for it later. The rest of these ingredients should be fine as is. So right now I'm preparing the this part here where it says add 3 cups water, undrained tomatoes, bouillon granules, salt, saffron, and pepper. I'm going to put them all together in this container here. So let's start with the 7.5 ounce cans tomatoes cut up. I already rinsed the top of this. Whenever I buy a can from the store, I'll rinse it off with water because I don't know who touched the top of this, you know. All right. I also threw out some old salt that's like 10 years old. I remember Jesus told me to throw out, I need a garbage can over here. He told me to throw out expired food, so I'm gradually phasing in Jesus' recommendations, gradually phasing out my old diet, and getting back to a lot of the ways that I used to eat back in the 1990s, which wasn't too bad back then. Okay. About half of this can would be 7.5 ounces, so. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, the rest of this I will store in a container. So we'll just go ahead and, yeah, that's about right. All right, put it over here. See what else we got. All right. Bouillon granules. I'm going to use 2 teaspoons instead of, I have lots of this. I'm probably going to end up throwing this out because I bought too much several years ago, but it's not expired, so there's 1. These are like bouillon granules. 2, that's good. I'm only going to use 2. I'm not going to use 3, a whole tablespoon. Like I said, it's got some ingredients in it that I'm afraid might upset me. I'm trying to learn moderation. I got to modify the recipe a little bit because I'm cutting back on the chicken. The recipe calls for a whole chicken, and I'm only using half of a whole chicken here, so even less than half. So I got to kind of modify other parts of the recipe. Okay, let's see here. Salt. Okay, I threw this out. I mean, look at the bottom of that, see? I threw this out. Jesus told me to throw out anything. I think he doesn't want me to risk getting any infections. That could also be contributing to diarrhea. If I eat expired food, I could be getting infections, so it's not worth it. So lately I've gotten into buying this kind of salt because I love to grind my own salt, but this will work. So how much salt? Teaspoon of salt, I think it said. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and use this. This will work. Yeah, throw that in there. So since I'm going to end up adding salt anyways, just go ahead and put that in there. Okay, saffron. The saffron, 1/4 of a teaspoon. Let me go get me 1/4 of a teaspoon measuring thing here. Because saffron's a very expensive spice, and I wouldn't even be able to make this recipe If my friend John Valcora didn't order this for me, thank you, John. This is 1/8 of a teaspoon. So this is 1/8, so I'll just do this twice, and that'll be 1/4. Now here's the wonderful saffron. Oh, expensive spice, right there. Let's go ahead and get that. I want to make sure I don't mess this up. Okay. Wow. This is yeah. This is. All right. That's about a little bit more. You don't need a whole bunch. Okay, I'm good. Let's go ahead and put the cover back on. It didn't really fit in the, I had to pull it out with my fingers. It didn't really fit in the spoon, but that's okay. And pepper. Pepper, let's see, 1/4 of a teaspoon ground pepper, so that would be about 2 of these. 1. That's good enough. Did a little bit less because, like I said, I don't want to irritate my bowels, you know. So let's go ahead and mix that all together. I'll use my whisk. Here it is. All right, let's go ahead and mix this all together. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this done first. I'm kind of like, ooh, that smells good. This is actually a pretty simple arroz con pollo, and it's not really like the way the people that down in Spain and in the South American countries eat it, but I used to make this a lot in the 1990s when I had my 1981 Better Homes and Garden cookbook, and I loved it. It was delicious. Okay. Oh, now I know why I'm cutting back on this. This has turmeric in it. I've learned that turmeric, excuse me, gives me diarrhea if I eat too much of it. It's not a bad spice to have, but moderation is the key. That's the reason I cut back a little bit on that. Yeah, I tend to eat like a pig. So since I have a tendency to do that, my weight is stabilizing at about 129 in the morning, but I still like to eat like a pig. So since I like to do that, I need to cut back on some of the spices that make me gassy and diarrhea, like cut back a little bit on the onions and the garlic and maybe the pepper and the turmeric, and maybe, or if you're going to eat something that's going to make you that way, don't pig out on it and maybe pig out on something else. So that's a strategy I've got to remember. Okay. Unless you want to have diarrhea city the next day. Okay, let's go ahead and turn it off. I got it pretty well mixed up there. And now we're going to work on cutting up the onions and the garlic. Here is where I store my onions and garlic. It'll last forever in here. Yeah, beautiful. Just really nice and firm. Yeah, I have garlic's in here too. Yeah, I store it in that paper bag in a dark spot, and it makes it last longer. But I found inevitably you're going to end up throwing out some food whether you like it or not, because that's just the way it goes, you know. I do my best not to waste food, but inevitably you end up. So I'm going to go ahead and chop this up. This is a kind of a big onion. So what I'm going to do is only use half of this, and then the rest of it I'm going to dice it, then I'm going to freeze it. And let me just go ahead and wash the onion. I'm going to take off the outer skin. I already opened the window. I've learned when you chop onions, if you don't open the window, your eyes are going to water, usually. Especially when you chop an onion at room temperature, when the onion is at room temperature. Let's see if I, yeah, so, let's see if I can, yeah, that's good. There's my camera. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and chop this up, and I'm going to store it as store about half of it in a freezer bag. Let's see, I need a quart zip quart size bag here. Okay. This bag looks like it's still good even though it's been re-washed. So if worse comes to worse, you know. Okay, we'll work on the onion first. Take the skin off. Let's make sure that let's see if yeah, that'll work. Okay. Take the skin off here. Yeah, I've tried it. This morning I had some soft stools and I had to wipe forever for one of them, and I thought, okay, I'm messing up a little bit on my diet here. So I'm still doing the food diary, and that's a really handy thing to do because it helps me figure out what I'm doing wrong. Because for a couple days I had nice, normal, hard stools, but I figured out what the culprit is. Part of the problem is because yesterday I had strawberries with non-fat yogurt, even though it was for breakfast, but through the whole, and then I had a recipe with wakame seaweed with tofu, it turns out I used a little bit more wakame seaweed in that recipe than I should have. You got to remember there's lots of magnesium in seaweed. That tends to give you loose stools. And that in combination with the shredded beef with bok choy and cabbage, where I used 3 cloves of garlic in that, and I pigged out on it, along with the chopped ginger. I'm learning that the ginger garlic combination is diarrhea city, especially if you eat a lot of it. Like my turmeric meatloaf had those 2 ingredients in it. Turmeric too will give you diarrhea if you eat that in excess. So the key is moderation. But you know, having eaten all that, I noticed I was very gassy yesterday. So I've learned that stuff like onions, garlic, moderation is the key. Enough for flavor, but don't eat it like a food, you know. I mean, you say, well, what about onion rings? Well, yeah, maybe that's okay. But if you're going to have something like that, I would say probably, unless you have a high gas tolerance, some people do better than others, you know. I think my body's used to being in the diarrhea mode, so I got to kind of go easy on any foods that make me extremely gassy or give me diarrhea. So I'm going to modify this recipe to take the fact that I have a tendency to have diarrhea into consideration. So this is how I cut my onions. I've cut a lot of onions in my time. I usually take this part off. Yep, here we go. Yeah, open the window. Yeah, that's okay. And so I go like this. Whew, it's a good thing that window's open. My eyes are burning just a little bit. This is a room temperature onion too. That'll do it. All right, let's go this way. Okay, there. And then what I'll do is turn it around this way and cut like this. I'm going to mince this because most recipes I use call for minced onions. You say, do I have any recipes this week where I'm going to be using a whole onion? Let me think. I've got Arroz con Pollo, and then, nope, all my recipes call for diced onions. You say, well, what are you going to do if you need a recipe that calls for a, well, that's the only bad thing about, you know, when you chop your onions ahead of time. You got to decide which format you're going to use the onion in. Well, I'm going to go ahead and dice these. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use for the recipe. Actually, I'm going to freeze this part. This is going to go in the freezer. Whew, my eyes are watering. It's a good thing the window's open. That was a smart move. Yeah. Yeah, the recipe actually calls for a, what is it? 1 cup chopped onion. Oh, 1 cup. Man, that's like a half of this is like 1 cup. I think I'm going to have to go even less than that. The Arroz con Pollo kind of needs the onions for flavor, so maybe I don't know, let me think about this. Okay, so here we go. It kind of needs the onions for flavor. That kind of makes the recipe, you know. So, Jesus, if I skimp a little bit on the onions, is it going to make it taste a lot worse? Let me think about this. Is it worth risking diarrhea in Gas City? Yeah, okay. Well, the recipe calls for a cup, and I'm only using half of a chicken, so I can probably modify it a bit without affecting the flavor too much. Ah, shucks. Okay. All right. Yeah, that is definitely more than a cup. Something in the air is making me cough too. Oh well, or maybe it's the onions. Okay, let's go ahead and use a little bit. I'm just going to use that much. Yeah, that should be good. That's actually almost a cup. Yeah, but I think I'm going to need that to have flavor. This is going to go in the freezer. Whew, eyes are watering. Yeah, this is going to go in the freezer. And instead of using 2 cloves of garlic, I'm going to use 1. Basically, I'm using onions for flavor, but I don't want to use so much that I have a big gas problem. I hear onions and garlic can do that to you if you consume them in excess. That's almost a cup right there anyways. So let's go ahead and, okay, I'm going to put this in here and cover it. Okay, so getting these ingredients ready ahead of time. Let's go ahead and kind of split these up. That way they'll spread out, you know, in the recipe. Yeah. And they'll kind of spread out a little bit. Yeah, ooh, that's... It's not that I'm allergic to onions or anything, it's just that anything in excess, the body tends to react, especially my body, so... So, according to Jesus, he said anybody who eats like you do would have diarrhea, Gail. So, okay. Whew. I'm going to put a cover on this, man. It's making my eyes water. Yeah, let's put a cover on that. I threw out a container of canned tomatoes that I had in my refrigerator that looked like it was going moldy. I'm obviously not going to use that. Let's just go ahead and cover that some top with the watery eyes. Now we're going to work on cutting up 1 clove of, I'm going to do 1 clove. I bet it won't affect the flavor that much. Yeah, I think part of the watery eyes could be the onions. All right. 1 clove. Just enough to give me flavor. Not enough to give me gas. Or diarrhea. A little bit of gas is okay. I can live with it, but I did spend a little bit more time wiping this morning than I would have liked, and I'm going to blame it solely on my diet. There we go. That's it. That's all I need. That will do it. I'm going to put the rest back in this bag, and this bag is going to go. I'm wearing the shirt that Joshua got me. This bag goes right there. Put it right back in the dark cabinet. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, they'll last forever if we put them in there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and work on minced. Yep, minced. I'm good at minced. So go ahead and go like this. You might say, well, you mean the way you made that shredded beef with bok choy and carrots is a bad recipe. No, it's a good recipe, but then having wakame seaweed salad and strawberries with yogurt all in the same day, along with peanuts and stuff. It's just too much fiber in one day. And it just gave me diarrhea. So, but if that's the only fiber dish you have all day, you can make it just add, or I could have eaten less of it. I pigged out on it. I had like 6 cups or something. I can't remember. I ate way too much. So it's a good recipe, but everything in moderation. You know, that's the key. And moderation seems to be difficult for me. I'm a pig, you know. You say, well, you sure don't seem like a pig. Your weight is, yeah, believe me, I'm a pig. I eat low-calorie foods. That's why I don't seem like a pig. But low-calorie foods that are high fiber, you know, that can wreak havoc to your digestive system. So there's nothing wrong with fiber, you know, but I have a tendency to consume too much fiber. That's why I'm always farting. Okie dokie. There we go. That's good. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put that all in there. And I think I'm ready to start cooking. Haha. Yeah. I forgot to add 3 cups of water. That's important. Let me go ahead and add that in there. 3 cups of water. Yeah, that's going to be important because that's about how much water you need for the rice. Okie dokie. So we got 1. 2, and let's go ahead and put it 3. Yeah. Okay, I put a little bit less than 3 cups because I had a little bit more tomatoes than the recipe called for. So I'm trying to get just the right amount of liquids so that the rice will, let me go ahead and mix this all up. So I'm going to get this all, you can now starting to see a little bit of the yellow color from the saffron. Okay, let me go ahead and bring this over here. And now I can start getting ready to start cooking. I'm going to bring the camera over here. Okay, the recipe calls for 1½ cups of long grain rice, uncooked. I only have brown rice. So let's go ahead and measure it. That's about 1. Put it in there. I'm going to wash it first, and then about 1/2. A little bit more. All right. You might say, maybe if you got white rice, you'd have less of a diarrhea problem. Yeah, maybe, but I'm not going to go. I actually like brown rice. I might get white rice, but actually the recipe doesn't say to use brown rice, but I just like brown rice. But I could try white rice too, you know. That's all right. All right. Now let's go ahead and wash it. I always wash my rice, even for Hispanic cuisine, you know. Until the water comes out clear. So the water comes out clear. You know, I should have put the camera on the other side. Alright. Let's go ahead and just getting everything prepared ahead of time so that when I cook I don't have interruptions like happened to me the other day when I was making shredded beef with bok choy and carrots and I forgot about my beef broth. Still not clear enough. Let's go ahead and wash that again. My mother trained me this way. I always wash the rice. Japanese always wash their rice. So let's go ahead and get that in there. Brown rice, white rice, it doesn't matter. We always wash our rice. All right, let's go ahead and get this again. You see, the recipe doesn't say to wash the rice. I know, but I'm too Japanese in the way I was raised, so I wash my rice always. All right, the water's starting to come out clear now. My mother said, "Oh, you don't know if some mouse might have peed on it," so in the rice granary, you know. So it just sticks in my mind. So here we go. It's just about ready now. I think one more swish here. Yeah, that's about good. Get most of that water out. And yesterday I cleaned the stove and washed the sink, and I washed my dish drainer here. I don't have a dishwasher. I hand wash everything, so. All right, that's good. So now I'm ready. Go ahead and move the camera again. I'm ready to start cooking. Yeah. Okay, put it on high heat. Going to warm up the stove. Looks like I've got everything. Let me read the recipe. It's always a good idea to read your recipe beforehand, especially if you're making a video. Yeah, it looks like I'm good here. The peas and pimento are towards the end. Oh, let's get the cover. Oh, the cover's right here. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. So, what I often do to tell whether the pan's ready, I'll kind of like, nope, not ready yet. Throw a little bit of water on there. When it sizzles, then you know it's hot. This oil is expired in 2017, but I've never opened it. And it looks really good and it smells good. Though, to obey Jesus, I am going to, next time I go grocery shopping, I'm going to get me some more oil. But extra virgin olive oil would be good. So, to obey Jesus, I'm going to throw it out and buy a brand new one. A real small one. Because Jesus said only shop for 2 weeks at a time. So, yeah, okay. The recipe says, sprinkle chicken lightly with salt. I'm going to, I never do that. I figure it's got enough salt in it. I don't follow the recipe there. In a 12-inch skillet, brown chicken in hot oil about 15 minutes. Remove chicken from skillet. You said that this sprinkled chicken with salt would make it taste? That's okay. I don't need the salt. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and put a little bit of oil. The oil that it asks for is 2 tablespoons. No. This is a tablespoon here. I don't think I'm going to do full 2 tablespoons. Kind of like 3/4 of a tablespoon. That's good enough. I might, you know what? Cut a little bit. You know what? I think I am going to kind of go with the recipe here. Because I'm going to have a little left over to, sorry, I'm in the way here. Okay, let's go ahead and throw the chicken in there. You know what? I need a spatula. I gotta get my spatula. This is my favorite stir-fryer utensil here. That way I can spread it. When you don't use a lot of oil, you gotta spread it around. So that's the reason this comes in handy. All right. Alrighty, brown. They want it done. I took the skins off. Throw that in there. Except for this chicken wing still has some skin. The recipe says to brown it. I don't know how that would work. Starting to brown. I might add a little mustard. Did you skip the salt? That'd make it taste better. Yeah, you know what? Nah, I'm not going to worry about the salt. Yeah. I put salt in it. Okay. Browning it. I think it's because it gives a little crispiness and it makes it taste better. Let's see here. Say about 15 minutes, eh? About 15 minutes. Do this for about 15 minutes. Wow, 15 minutes. The recipe calls for doing this to a whole chicken. 15 minutes. Okay, let me turn it off. We don't need to have it on the whole time here. Still brown in the chicken. Let's go a little bit like that, if you can see it. Yeah, I'm still brown in the chicken. It's been about 5 minutes. It's browning. It's browning. See that? You gotta kind of move it around so it doesn't burn though. Had to modify the recipe a bit because I'm not using as much chicken as the recipe calls for. I lowered the heat just a bit so it wouldn't burn. I want to brown it, not burn it. Yeah, so it's browning. Okay, it's browning quite nicely. As you can see, the blood starting to come out of that piece right there. So it is cooking. Okay, I don't think I'm going to leave it in the full 15 minutes. It's starting to burn just a little bit. Yeah, let's go ahead and, yeah, it's time to take it out. I don't want it burnt. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. Alrighty. That's what you do next. You take it out of the pan. Now I need to cook the rice. Okay, in the remaining pan drippings, stir in the, let me go ahead and spread the oil around it kind of this way. Actually, let's go ahead and add just a bit. We're going to go ahead and use a little bit of oil. Add a little bit more oil. I actually use less than the recipe called for. Stir rice, onion, and garlic until the rice is golden. So let's go ahead and spread this around. Of course, this is brown rice, so it's kind of already golden. You're supposed to use white rice. You say, well, why didn't you buy white rice? Because I don't want to, I already had brown rice on me. It doesn't taste that bad with brown rice, though. And the diarrhea that I had is starting to go away. I'm having like little mini turds, you know, but it's not like I committed the cardinal sin by having a little bit too much ginger and garlic yesterday, you know. Okay, let's go ahead and, yeah, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cook all this and a little bit of leftover oil so the rice is golden. When they say golden, they're talking about white rice, and I'm using brown rice, so basically it'll be a little bit brown, you know. Yeah, I'm pretty much using the same amount of oil as the recipe calls for, because you kind of need that to do the cooking part. Almost, some of like it when I make a mess. I just cleaned this area the other day. Ah. Use that. There we go. Yeah, I just cleaned this the other day. You got to keep switching it so the rice doesn't burn though. I used to make this a lot in the early 1990s. Yeah. They say to use a 12-inch skillet, and I'm using an 18-inch skillet. Maybe I should have used a 12-inch skillet. It'll probably still be good. All right. Kind of separate these onions up here. Put the heat up a bit. So you might say, so did you botch it with the shredded beef? No. Next time I make that recipe, I'm just going to use a little less garlic and ginger, that's all. That's all. Or just eat less of it. You know, spread it out over several days. I think that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and move on to the next phase. Add 3 cups water. Okay, here's the part. I already assembled this ahead of time. Okay, I'll be washing all those dishes afterwards. Okay, so now we'll just go ahead and wait till it boils. Bring to boiling, stir well. Yep. You know what? I think I picked the right size pan. I can tell. Yep. Because this rice is going to expand and it needs room to expand. Okay. Okay, it's got to, ooh, I bet this is going to be good, huh? Okay, just stir, put it up on high. Stir well. Like I said, I used to make this a lot in the early 1990s. Oh, I can see some of that wonderful saffron. Thank you so much, John Paul. It's putting a nice yellow color in the water. So this is going to be delicious. So you might say, so you botched it with the shredded beef? But no, I didn't botch it. It's just that I was eating that with seaweed and strawberries all in one day. And so today I'm having a little bit of a soft stool issue, where I'm having to wipe a lot, you know. So I'm just going to modify that recipe, and I think it's mostly the ginger. I've noticed my body gets really diarrhea-like if I have too much ginger and garlic. So I'm going to modify, since I eat a lot of diarrhea-producing foods, I need to modify my recipes to make them less, to cut back on some of these spices, you know. Okay, that is starting to boil. Arrange chicken atop rice mixture. There we go. Excuse me, I'm blocking the camera on that. Oh, shoot! Ah, shucks, I'm going to have a cleaning job to do. I'll work on that later. Ah, I need a paper towel. Here we go. Okay. Let's lower the heat. I'm going to have to, I spilled a little bit of oil on the floor. I'll work on that later. Let's just get this done. Okay. On top of the rice mixture, cover and simmer 30 to 35 minutes. Lower the heat. 30 to 35 minutes. I lowered the heat quite a bit. Okay. And until chicken is tender and rice is done. So I'll be back, set my timer for 35 minutes. I washed all those dishes that were in there. You might say, how did you do that? I kind of put the dish pan right over here. Got a bit of a backache from doing that, but yeah, I can't stand having all that right next to me. Anyways, so I washed that. Now I've got to get my peas and pimento ready to throw in with that. And this is covered and cooking. It'll be ready in about 10 minutes for me to add the peas and pimento. Okay, the recipe calls for a cup of frozen peas and 2 ounces of sliced pimientos. What I did is I opened this jar of pimientos using plastic gloves, and I drained it already. About half of this is going to be 2 ounces, so let's just take about half of that out. You say, what you gonna do with the other half? I guess I'll be making arroz con pollo next week. That next half will be for next week. That's good. Okay, now I'm gonna take a cup of this, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and make the shredded. The way I save money on my grocery bills, since I still have like beef broth and stuff, I'll go ahead and make the shredded beef with bok choy and carrots again. But next time I make it, I'm going to possibly I'm going to use less onion and ginger. Yeah, and I might be able to get away with less meat too. I felt like I was a little bit more meat than I'm used to. A cup of frozen peas. So I'm going to have plenty of this for another recipe. This was the smallest batch of frozen peas that Walmart had. That's good. Doesn't have to be perfect. So that'll work. So I'll throw that in. And I'm going to go ahead and make arroz con pollo again next week, just to save money. And I'll go ahead and make shredded beef with bok choy and cabbage, or maybe another recipe that uses the beef broth. I'll see what but I don't want to waste food, so I'm going to but I am going to try to introduce new food into my diet, because I was pretty much eating the same stuff all the time, you know. So yeah. Okay, let's just put this back in the freezer. Okay, so this is ready, and then I'll add it to the arroz con pollo in about 10 minutes. That's when the rice will be cooked. So okay, I've got about approximately 5 minutes to go. It looks like I need to put the temperature up a bit. Yeah, let's go ahead and cover it. In about 5 more minutes, it looks like it'll be ready for me to add the peas and the pimento here. Okay, I need to, I'm multitasking here. I'm uploading my video to YouTube, but it is time for me to add the pimento and peas and stir them in. Let's go ahead and stir. Yeah, that looks good. Stir them in. Let's go ahead and put the temperature a bit. Looks like next time I cook this I can put the temperature up a bit. No, I'm doing fine. Has a nice colorful dish. It actually tastes pretty good too. If I remember when I made it back in the 1990s. See how the chicken's getting. Yep. I'm going to kind of spread the meat out a bit so that I can make this work for me. Take some of the meat off of the thigh here. Yeah. Because I didn't use a whole chicken like the recipe calls for. I'm finding that most recipes I have to modify them and use less meat, because I don't really like eating a meat-heavy diet. It isn't so much that it's a health nut thing with me, but I just think too much meat doesn't taste good. You know, it's probably my Asian upbringing or my Japanese upbringing. Okay, that looks good. So 5 more minutes. Just 5 more minutes. I kind of mixed it all in there. 5 more minutes. Cover it again. Yeah, make sure that's not too hot. Okay, that's good. Cover and cook for 5 more minutes. Yeah, oops. Yeah, that's good. Something fell down here. Yeah, the rice is cooked, so this is good. 5 more minutes and then it'll be done. Here's the Arroz con Pollo. Let's see if we can get a close-up on that right there. Do I have enough light? Let's see. Put this light on, put that light on. Get some light in here. There it is. And I'll go ahead and try it and let you all know what I think. Bring this back this way. Yeah. Okie dokie. If you notice, I didn't bring the salt this time. That's because I added plenty of salt, so it's probably going to be fine. Little bit hot. I can see the steam coming here. Yeah, it doesn't need salt. Okay. Next time, when I cook this, I'm going to put less salt in. Because I think the broth, the chicken bouillon granules had plenty of salt too. Actually, I wish that I had put a little bit less salt in. So my critique for this recipe is, it's good though. My critique for this recipe is, when you cook it, cut the salt in half. So I'm going to go ahead and modify that for my recipe online. Cut the salt in half. It's a good thing I didn't add salt to the chicken, like the recipe said. Maybe I'm not as much of a saltaholic as I thought I was. I'm going to cut the pepper in half too. Not bad though. Not bad, but I think I prefer a little less salt. But it's good though, I like it. The rice, it's kind of crunchy like Italian risotto. I like that. I don't really like mushy rice. I like the rice. It kind of tastes like Italian risotto. Risotto, you know? I like it. Actually, for some people, this may not be too much salt. But for me, not bad. You know why I should have cut back on the salt? Because I'm using less chicken than the recipe calls for. Good. Actually, yeah. My only critique, a little less pepper, a little less salt. So I'm gonna have a link to this recipe underneath this video. I'm gonna modify the recipe and so that it's exactly the way that I like. I'm gonna cut the salt in half, the pepper in half. Other than that, it's perfect. It's good. Okay, good. I just want to thank all of my patrons, and I love hanging out with you on our Friday night hangouts, and I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for your support.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hey Gail, I heard something special today. I spoke to Santa's elves, and this is what they say. The reindeers are ready with presents on the sled, and Santa's coming to see you when you're snuggled up in bed. Sing the happy Christmas song, reach up and tickle the stars. Sing the happy Christmas song, now bend and wiggle your bum. Smile and let the whole world know that you are having fun. Sing along with me to Gail's Christmas song.